Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the final session of the Season 2 Pacific Division Sheltering Capacity Building Series. My name is Yi-Wei. I am a volunteer and I joined Red Cross in 2009. I am the Pacific Division's training event planner and also the Los Angeles Region's Mass Care Program lead. So this is a series where I invite all the subject matter experts in sheltering or sheltering related activities to share their knowledge and to build our workforce confidence. This meeting will be recorded and the link will be sent out within a week with slides. All the recordings are also posted on YouTube. You can search for Red Cross Pacific Division on YouTube and all the recordings are there as well. Your camera and mic have been disabled. You're able to type your questions in the chat and the mic will be open towards the end for Q&A. I encourage you all to type your name and your region in the chat, which many of you already done that, and please say hi to each other. Today's topic is a long overdue topic with Hurricane Ian and the rising number of disasters. Resilience became an important part of our daily life and also an integral part of our clients' recovery process. So today I invited Deb Harper from California Gold Country region to share with us her resilient toolkit. Deb, it's all yours.
Thanks. I'm just doing a quick sound check. Everyone can hear me? Okay.
Yes.
And I'm going to leave my camera off for bandwidth, and we'll just take it from there. So for those of you who may not know me, I am Deb Harper. I am a registered nurse, and I've been with Red Cross for 10 years. I wear multiple hats, just like most of you do. I mostly deploy as DHS, but I'm also recovery and DI. I'm an instructor, and my blue sky roles are being the Regional Direct Services Program Lead for Gold Country Region and the Nursing Network Nursing Leader for Northern California Coastal Region, or NCCR. So tonight we're going to talk about resilience. And it's a big topic, but we're just going to kind of hit the high points here. Resilience. So what is resilience? Well, when we did our psychological first aid, we learned to look for key signs about our clients. We learned about risk or contributing factors, such as what kind of losses they have gone through. Have they experienced previous loss? Economic loss, jobs, etc., loss of community. We know in Gold Region, and I know across the country, there have been communities that have been totally lost by disaster, loss of loved ones and pets, etc. I mean, these are all contributing factors that we pay attention to when we're working with clients. We also look at their reactions. Are they crying? Are they quiet? Are they too quiet? Are they angry? Are they expressing hopelessness or being withdrawn? All of these are reactions, and everywhere in between can be a person's reaction to what's going on. Well, the third thing we look at and we talk about when we talk about working with our clients is resilience. How are they coping? How have they coped in the past? What support do they have? Do they have family or friends they can call on, or do they have community support or church or whatever? So tonight we're going to talk about resilience, but not just in relationship to our clients, but in relationship to ourselves. Resilience refers to the ability to cope effectively and adapt well to difficult challenges or situations. It's not something we're simply born with, although everyone experiences resilience. People become stronger as they learn new ways of coping with positive and negative experiences. We continue to build and strengthen resilience throughout our lives. There are factors that contribute to positive coping and building resilience. A person's ability to gain or regain a sense of normalcy after adverse circumstances is partially based on their individual attributes, such as optimism, self-confidence, flexibility, insightfulness, perspective, self-control, sociability. These are things we talk about, and when we talk about ways of coping with experiences, these factors contribute to our positive coping mechanisms, and that builds resiliency. When we strengthen our abilities like these, we are strengthening our factors and our resilience. So when we talk about risk and reactions and resilience, let's talk about for ourselves, for responders. Some risk or contributing factors for us, think about it. Exposure, re-exposure to client situations and stories after disasters. Interacting with exploitive or unappreciative or otherwise clients that we don't normally maybe feel comfortable with. Lack of physical connection, being in that virtual environment, or lack of control in our work environment. Think about some of the deployment spots we've been in. Conflicts with coworkers and or supervisors. Irregular sleep, dietary, exercise routines. These are all contributing factors. Are there any others that you can think of? If so, pop them in the chat. I'll wait a couple seconds here. Life drama, yes, yes, and life drama that we have been through. Um, One of the things, if you remember, when we go out on mass casualty or on particularly tough DRs, we're often asked to do a self-assessment about what our condition is, what we have recently been gone through, or is this a residence, or are we a resident of an affected area? Because all of those things can be factors that could be affecting us or contributing to our risk when we are facing these situations. So yes, missing family, or unfortunately, perhaps seeing, injuries or something like that. Well, then think about what our reactions might be. And again, pop those into the chat. Someone already mentioned compassion fatigue. Absolutely. That is an absolute reaction that we'll experience at any one time. Stressful partnering, organizations interactions. Yeah, having stressful interactions with others. What are some other reactions? And I know I'm kind of jumping around here. I'm really liking some of the things that happen to us, being moved around a lot, the lodging, all that is stressful to us and it's something we all go through. And we end up with a reaction of feeling snappy. Oh yeah, this never happened to me, haha. So these are some things, but here's some other things, and just keep putting them in there. You talked about that compassion fatigue, but yeah, that feeling burnt out, um, feeling tired and fatigued just in general, harder to care or interact remotely, feeling anxious or angry with ourselves or with clients, reliving or churning conversations over and over in our minds, second guessing ourselves, having trouble with over identifying with clients or hard to separate ourselves from our clients, getting into arguments or overreacting with coworkers and supervisors, and having difficulty downshifting after that fast pace of disaster work. These are all reactions that we go through when we are going through responding. So doing that and being a part of that means that we really have to then pay attention to while we build our resilience. And it is something that we can build. There are 5 pillars that make up the foundation of resilience. I think of it as a 5-legged stool. And yes, it'll stand with 4 legs and even with 3 legs, but it's not as balanced and is not as strong because the other legs will have to pick up the weight and eventually can buckle if not replenished or strengthened. So we really want to pay attention to all 5 pillars when we talk about resilience. And they are self-awareness, self-care, positive relationships, purpose, and mindfulness. So let's talk about each one of these. Self-awareness. Well, self-awareness is the clear perception of your personality, including your strengths, your weaknesses, your thoughts, your beliefs, your motivations, your emotions. Knowing oneself and how you operate, what motivates you, is really important because when you know how you feel and why you feel the way you feel, you can then know how your feelings either help or hurt you. Self-awareness allows us to understand others as well and how they perceive us, our attitudes, and how we respond. They respond to us and we respond to them. When we understand our own emotions, we can communicate much more effectively and empathize with others and address misunderstandings before they become conflicts. You know, we all have blind spots, and so we need to think about ways that we can improve and grow in our self-awareness. One of the things I like to do is, ask a trusted friend or family member, but someone that I, trust, I give them permission to give me feedback. I invite them to let me know, how things are going or how they're seeing me or what's going on. A lot of times people won't give you feedback because they're not really sure. But if you invite the feedback, if you let them know, honestly, I want you to know, I want to know if, how I'm doing or how you see me. You'll be surprised how people accept that invitation graciously and will give you feedback in blind spots that maybe you aren't seeing. Self-care. Well, self-care, that's when we all probably have some work to do. Though unique to each person, we have common needs as human beings to function effectively in the world. We need adequate sleep, appropriate exercise, and adequate nutrition. And we know that is tough in a DR deployment situation. Caring for ourselves allows us, though, to meet the multiple challenges of daily life. And self-care, there's the word there, self-care, is initiated and maintained by us as individuals. So it's a big one. It's a big one, and it's critical to resilience. How are we refilling our energy tanks physically? A car doesn't get very far when it's out of gas. So good sleep versus chronically not getting enough sleep or waking up ruminating is going to deplete us. Good nutrition versus the high fat, high sugar caffeine we all know and love. Good exercise, stretching and movement, strengthening versus the sitting, and then name that activity in front of a computer or in a car or at a workstation, etc. Getting that good exercise is part of what we strive for and need to strive for our self-care. And in this particular leg of the resilience stool, it is one that most often I think gets neglected, and it's the one that we really can do something about. So remember, we can't give of ourselves if our own cup is running low. So again, a question to you, what do you do for self-care on deployments? Go ahead and throw those in, because even though I'm going through this and I know that we're kind of looking at chat, etc., these are also great things that you're sharing with each other. So there's things that I haven't thought about, but you're going to think about and you're going to share with each other. So please take advantage of putting stuff in chat. So the next leg is positive relationships. People who support and care about us and we care about them. Those are people that are very important, and they're positive relationships in our lives. One of the most profound experiences we have in our lives is connecting with others. and we are happier, we feel more supported, and we support more and are more connected when we have those positive relationships. It gives us a sense of security, knowing that people care about us, friends and family who build us up. Um, don't you have, or do you, and if you think about it, if you have that person in your life, you can always call or text, even if it's been months or even years. That's that kind of positive relationship that, you got in your back pocket when you need it. Relationships, though, like anything else, take energy. And the positive ones are the ones that also help refill our energy reserves. There's something I call the emotional bank account. We need to always be making deposits in each other's emotional bank accounts. Um, you know, there are times we're going to make withdrawals. We walk by somebody and we don't pay attention, or perhaps we're curt or abrupt or short with someone. We forgot about something, or maybe an email or a text, didn't had a tone that you didn't meal, and each of those things are kind of withdrawals from each other's, emotional bank accounts. So making deposits, emotional bank account deposits, are really important to do all the time that we can. I noticed Andrea saying, be kind. Absolutely. And acknowledging each other, acknowledging the good things that we're all doing, positive feedback, you know, and sharing yourself. How much have we missed during COVID of even being together? What's going on, sharing each other's stories, being that connectedness, and then helping each other. When somebody says to you, can I help? Even if you don't need it, that is putting into our emotional bank because somebody reached out to me and said, can I help? Those are all things that help our relationships, and it's all part of positive relationship building. The next one is purpose. Recognition that we belong to and serve something bigger than ourselves, I think, is important to all of us. We all look for purpose. I mean, isn't that why we're here? It helps shape our mindset and the attitude we have towards others, as well as the events we experience. We know about this. Having something bigger than ourselves helps us face whatever comes our way. And having purpose in one's life, I think, really brings out the best in people. And a shared purpose where we work together creates synergy. It creates that sense of when together and we combine our efforts, we have an even greater effect than the sum of our separate parts. It's that thing where 1 and 1 equals 3. And when we get that synergy around purpose, I think, that's when we are working on all cylinders. The last leg of the stool is mindfulness. Mindfulness is being open and paying attention to the present. When you're mindful, you can observe your thoughts without judgment, without telling yourself that this is good or this is bad. And that's not easy because I think we all put judgment to our thoughts. But mindfulness is when you're paying attention to what's going on to the present, and you're being in the present, but it's without judging. And that's the practice. So being present, being in the moment without judging. So to summarize, by strengthening these pillars or legs of the stool, we add to our resiliency, and we're better able to handle the stressors and events we encounter in our lives. These are skills, and they work together to help lift us up, to help us bounce back. And vice versa, when any of these are overtaxed or weakened, it weakens our overall resiliency. It weakens us, and we then rely more heavily on those other areas to hold us up. So that said, let's talk a little bit about stress and stressors. Types of stressors, well, they can be physical, they can be mental, emotional, spiritual. Physical stuff taxes our strengths, our flexibility, our endurance, our ability, mobility. We develop and maintain these things with practice, but we can lose over time by virtue of just aging or disuse or misuse. With our mental stressors, it stresses our attention span, our ability to focus. We end up finding new ways to solve problems, et cetera. So there's mental things that affect us and are stressors to us. The emotional stressors, we kind of just talked about earlier in terms of kind of things that we contribute to us as responders and also to our clients. And then, of course, the spiritual, in tough times and disasters in particular, it stresses and taxes our core values and beliefs. And that can stress our tolerance of beliefs and values for others. So these are all things that are real. And we have to pay attention to that. These are things that get stressed. And then our body reacts to stress. Our body responds to stress. We all know about the fight and flight and freeze response. The foot on the gas expends energy, but so does the brakes. And that freezing, that deer in the headlights, that tense, just not moving either way, that all expends energy. And then what happens is we have fatigue, we have sleeplessness, anxiousness, weight gain, weight loss, irritability, emotional exhaustion, crankiness, short-tempered, compassion fatigue. We all have experience with that ourselves or with others. And that feeling that the switch is always on. That's when we're in that stress mode, they actually trigger an actual neurochemical response in the body. In particular, the chemical cortisol. There's hundreds others, but cortisol is the one we all kind of remember. And it floods the bodies for hours even after the event, the stressful event. That's why it takes so long to calm down. Stress can be helpful. It gets us through challenges. It helps us respond in those acute, even life-threatening events. But it can also be detrimental over time, depleting us, weakening our immune system, causing high blood pressure, depression, exacerbating of diabetes, and adding to heart disease. It can become toxic when it remains elevated for long periods of time. So when we talk about the stress and we talk about such, we're talking about, and actually, I'm sorry, I got this in the wrong order. Nope, I'm in the right place. I'm sorry, you guys. We're talking about what depletes us or renews us when we're talking about stress. And when we talk about stress with the cortisol, that's that sympathetic. That's the heart rate goes up, the blood pressure goes up. And that's when the body is putting us on alert. But what happens though is we have emotions that can deplete us and actually keep us in that mode, such as anger, frustration, anxiety. That stuff is all depleting us, and it's all acting. Those are all stressors. Things that renew us, and actually, there's another good old hormone, which is called DHEA, and it's got a long name if you're interested, dehydroepiandrosterone, and they actually work together. So it's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, and they mediate short-term, long-term responses to stress. While cortisol can be toxic when it remains elevated too long, the DHEA is protective. It helps to mitigate the effects of the prolonged cortisol. So they work together. And so when you have the depleting emotions pulling us down, we can have renewed emotions that can help reset and that can help mitigate the effects. By working together, they keep us in balance. And it's the emotions of these things that supply that energy to us. They can renew us and they can deplete us. We want to work on the renewing side. So in talking about this, what you're hearing is this brain-heart connection. Experiencing positive emotions and attitudes creates neurochemicals that regenerate us and offsets the energy drain from stressors. When they're in sync, when we're in sync with our mind, our heart, and our emotions, our bodies, we're at our best because it all comes together. And that's called coherence. And that's fundamental to resilience. When we're feeling that when we're feelings we were experiencing as renewing reflects the coherent and the well-coordinated nervous system. And you can think when our mind's out of it, our emotions are going other ways, our body's going other ways. Well, what's happening then is something we see as incoherence. I really like this slide because you see the up and down of the heart there. And that is actually what happens when we're stressed and frustrated. We're out of sync, and that's called incoherence. And you'll actually see it in heart rhythms. I mean, our heart rates are going up. People start to, they'll talk about racing hearts and palpitations. But when we move into the renewing emotions, appreciation, gratitude, compassion, kindness, those enthusiasm, joy, by experiencing these emotions and attitudes, we're facilitating going into coherence. And that is then building our resilience. And they help create the neurochemicals that help keep our system in balance and offset that energy drain. And here's the kicker: taking charge of our emotional system that allows us to regulate that emotional energy, we can do that. And we can change those energy drains and allow ourselves to fill up our tanks again. That allows us to recover from difficulties and to bounce back and to be resilient in the face of adversity. The bottom line is when we are back in sync or coherence by renewing our positive emotions, we have changed those neurochemicals in our system. So there's actually what we call a heart-focused breathing technique, a quick coherence technique. It helps to take the charge out of a reaction and to start shifting to that coherent state. And Anina, who just said about deep breathing, this is absolutely where I'm going. It's easy to learn and it's easy to use to manage energy. It's a first step in shifting that state back to being calm, and it quickly reduces feelings of anger, of anxiety, of being overwhelmed. This is actually being taught, as many people who are on the call I'm sure know, to emergency responders, to hospice workers, to police and firefighters, to military personnel such as Navy SEALs, as a way to quickly move from that stressed space into being back in charge of the emotions and getting back into that coherent space. It can happen in a minute. It's quick but it's powerful in how it affects you. Using the power of the heart to balance your thoughts and emotions, you can achieve a better place with better mental clarity and feel better faster. Especially when you are beginning to feel drained, when you're frustrated, you're angry, you're irritated, etc. It's a great way to reset. So what I'm going to do is actually invite you all to take a moment to listen to someone who is much better at this take us through the quick coherence technique.
Quick coherence is a simple yet powerful technique that you can use to connect more deeply with your own heart and to connect more with hearts of others. Let's try it together. First step is to focus your attention on the area of your heart. to shift your focus to the area of your chest or heart and pretend like your breath is flowing in through the area of the heart or chest and out through the area of the heart. Breathe a little more slowly, a little more deeply than you normally do, maybe to a count of 5 in and 5 out, but find a smooth, easy rhythm. Let's do it.
Deb, you have to unmute yourself to talk because I muted you.
Thank you. So the quick coherence is a simple 1-2 step, and I've reiterated it here. It is just one thing that I've been doing, and I've had other people doing this, is actually starting meetings with something like this so that it brings people together and kind of get away from all the other things they're doing, but keep people focused and back to the to be focused and to be coherent with meeting together. So that's something that I've noticed people doing. The other thing I want to talk about, and one person asked about putting the link in the chat, is there's actually a well-being toolkit, which I'm going to show you in the exchange, that this and other techniques are there. It's been put together for all of us. And so I just want to share with you a quick little excerpt or the video about it, and then show you the toolkit. So the well-being toolkit, I'm hoping everyone can still hear me, and that you are seeing my my screen. Are you?
We can hear you. We see the
We see the
PowerPoint.
PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, the PowerPoint. Okay, I have to go, sorry. Okay, I know what I'm doing. Do you see it now?
No, I think the reason we're not seeing it is because you're sharing
Okay.
the PowerPoint
Okay.
instead of your screen.
I see. Okay. Well, I'm not going to, if you'll see in the slides, and I know that they'll be posted, there is a direct link and it is in the exchange. It's the Wellbeing Toolkit. And it was put together with all kinds of resources for us, and including a whole section on resilience, a whole section on various other things. In fact, if people want to have more of this kind of information, they actually have instructors that can come and do 5-minute, 10-minute presentations or group work or teamwork. So there's a lot of resources there. There's also stuff about deployments, stuff that our mental health people have put together. So it's a great resource place to go to, which was the whole point of me telling you all about it. So make sure that you take advantage of it and share it with your teams, or find it. There might be things there that you find useful as well. So in summary, resilience is the act of rebounding. It's a skill that we can continually improve and strengthen. The 5 pillars to build strong resilience we went through. Everyone experiences resilience, and along with resilience comes flexibility and adaptability. The more possibilities you envision, the more you develop abilities to overcome and expand. And the quick coherence technique is a tool for your tool belt, and there are more there, but I think that I was interested to all the things that people were putting in chat. This is something that people have already been doing and using in multiple ways, whether it's the pillowcase project or others. So it's a great tool for you to use and for you to use with others. So to end, I just want to say thank you for your wise and caring hearts. Thank you for your dedication and your service. And thank you for exemplifying people first and mission always. Thank you for letting me be here. That's it. Questions?
Thank you so much, Deb. Thank you for muting yourself. Thank you all. And before we jump into questions, excuse me, I'm choking on my saliva right now. Before we jump into questions, I do really want to thank everyone for attending. This is the final and the last session of this season, but it doesn't mean that we're going to end here. We have a wealth of knowledge in this group that every time today we had probably over 100 people, for other times we had 150, 160, 200. Those are all the people that you're able to reach out to. We talked about phone a friend earlier. We were talking about the connection earlier, that you're able to call them, you're able to text them, whether they're in your region, they're in your territory, they're in your division or across the nation. You do have the resources to call them, to text them, to email them. And when you meet new people in a disaster relief operation, connect with them, network with them, so then we can bring more into our own regions, our own territories. So this doesn't stop here. If we do have any updates, if we do get another operation order, or if there's a directive coming out, we will do a special session as well. If there's any other topics that you would like to cover in the future, feel free to let us know. My goal is really to do this every year. I know we are on the 2nd season now. I do hope that we'll have a 3rd season, 4th season, 5th season with different people and different knowledge to share. And I really like our today's session for resilience. Thank you so much, Deb, for presenting, and thank the other Deb, Deborah Smith, for introducing me to Deb Harper. I think it's very important for us to share knowledge, to share our wisdoms, not be shy for asking questions. And sometimes sharing knowledge and asking questions, they're not showing your weakness. It's not vulnerability or weakness. It's really, it takes courage to share your quote unquote weakness or to share something that you don't know. And oftentimes we'll find that something that you think you're the only one that doesn't know is actually applies to a broader group. So by asking the question, it benefits for everyone. So thank you so much. I will, I will go ahead and send the slides out. I will send out all the recordings, within a week. But I do encourage all of us to continue chat, continue to ask questions. And now we'll take questions. Okay, do we have any questions? Oh, before that, let me let me unmute you all. Because I muted you and didn't give the option to unmute. If you have questions, feel free to raise your hand, type in the chat. Deb, we have a question. Chris is asking that, have you used this on a disaster relief operation, whether for yourself or teaching coworkers to try?
Actually, I have. The last one that I was on, I'm sorry, the one in Ian, when I was doing ICCT, I used this with my team. And I think it was well received. And I think it was something that they were then able to take onto their teams. We had a very large operation there.
And Deb, could you explain ICCT?
Oh, I'm sorry. Integrated Care Condolence Team. For Hurricane Ian, we had 120 fatalities that we were working with across the state, the families, and then the state coroners, et cetera. So it was actually a large operation, and it was really helpful to be able to kind of have a way to kind of take a moment, pull ourselves together, literally take a deep breath, and just kind of regroup. And I think I got a lot of positive feedback for it.
Thank you. And we have a question. What do you do with managers or supervisors that are too aggressive?
Well, that's a good question. I'm going to put that back out to you. Because that's something I think we all have, situations. We have our regular ways of going through our supervisors, or first of all, trying to talk to somebody and going through our supervisors, et cetera. But, maybe just taking a minute with a person on the side and, asking if you can give them some feedback. Sometimes people are responsive to that, sometimes they aren't. There's going to be multiple situations and ways you have to look at it. We might have to bring in, other people to help talk with people. But I think maybe the first thing is recognizing that maybe they're under a bunch of stress. And then how do we help them move to where they're going to then be able to cope better? And these are hard situations. And that's why we're talking about how do we build our own internal resilience, because we're going to be challenged.
Thank you. We have another question that, is there any reminder cards for the principals or for little tips that we can have for the resilience?
If I don't have them, but I would contact or go through the toolkit, and there's several links and connections to the people that do the resilience workshops, and they might have such things.
Got it. Thank you. And we have a comment. Deb, do you mind to mute yourself? We have a comment that don't forget that staff relations are there for us as well. And another one that we have, Deb, if you can share some tips. We talked about earlier aggressive leaders or supervisors. And for someone that is in the headquarters, what's the best way? Because you're stressed as well. Let's just use, Hurricane Ian, for example, that you're stressed as well. Your team is stressed when you have thousands of, members on the floor, they're stressed, you're stressed, and the job directors or the assistant directors, they're also stressed. So how do you manage up? How do you help them to understand the situation better? Or how do you help them to help you so then you won't be this stressed?
Well, I think that is something that as a leadership group, I mean, if you're in headquarters, you're part of a leadership group, and that is to work with your team and your leaders to, one, be aware of the situation, acknowledge the situation, pull in your staff relations, your people, and talk about it. Because if you're feeling it, you can bet other people are too. And again, it's how do we help each other? But it's the kind of thing I think that as leaders, you would all want to work together and come up with what would be some options as a group. Sometimes there's things like having movie night, or ways to get away, or come up with some ideas, because every disaster is going to be different. Every headquarters is different. Every time, the first couple of weeks versus the next couple of months are going to be different when you're on DRs, and different stresses that are going on. So I guess I don't think there's one answer, but I think if I'm in that situation, what I would do is look around with my other leaders and work with my staff relations and staffing people and say, I'm feeling this. I bet other people are too. What can we do to address it?
Thank you. And we have a good question that how do we ensure that this kind of information is available to new volunteers as part of their onboarding?
Well, I'm not sure about the answer to that. I think that that's a really good question. It might be something to discuss with our orientation and our onboarding of our new volunteers, and where that gets done. I think too, though, sometimes it's just part of understanding disaster and disaster work. So it could be something that we talk about as part of our regular onboarding. But I would talk with workforce and with people that do our onboarding, and how they would want to integrate this.
Thank you. And I also do have another suggestion. Thank you, Deb, for muting yourself. So all the sessions, including the past season, they were posted on YouTube, which is the Red Cross, Pacific Division Red Cross YouTube channel. So people can just go ahead and search that channel, and everything is on there. And they're under the Shelter Capacity Building series, and it's one link after another. It's a playlist, and on there, you also have different tracks, as in if you have staff relations, they're on there too. If it's, external relations, they also did a series last year. Those are on there as well. So I think one of the things that we can do is I'm relying on every single one of you on this meeting, whether it's this session or previous sessions, to share your knowledge, to share to share these resources with your team, with your local chapters, local regions. So when people get assigned to you, whether it's in sheltering or in feeding, or whether it's in other lines of services, that they can benefit from this. And YouTube is everyone can access. You don't need a special link for that. I see a hand up. You want to unmute yourself and ask your question? It's the 323-348-3490 number.
Oops.
Well,
Okay. So, Deb, we have another comment said they might have missed it earlier, but did you get a chance to review the concept that stress is often caused by a difference between reality and expectations? And there are techniques to compare those two in order to reduce the stress levels.
Well, as I said in the beginning, this is a huge topic, and there's all kinds of information out there. And, what you're talking about here in terms of, our thoughts, it's a big part of, how we manage our thoughts and the emotions they cause us. So there are many techniques, there's many ways of looking at that. And hopefully there's some of that that's on the toolkit.
Thank you. And we're really doing a better job these days after Ian, that we're setting the expectations, setting a clear expectations, including the purpose of this series is also to give you the realistic experience, realistic expectations, so you know what to expect in sheltering. I think I saw Jody Wallace earlier on this call as well, that if you're sheltering, we have a saying that sheltering is not faint of the heart. So sheltering is difficult. Any kind of deployment is difficult. Take your hardship codes seriously, because some of them, I mean, not some of them, let me take it back. All of the hardship codes, they're real. And I think that's one of the things that struck me the most when I went to Ian, was that I was thinking that, oh, that doesn't apply to me. I don't know why I thought that it didn't apply to me. I guess I know because I was thinking I'm in headquarters. So, the field team, it impacts the field team. It doesn't impact me, but it was very stressful. So I asked everyone to look at the hardship codes, read it before you get deployed. If you're hesitant about deploying your hardship codes, ask your deployment team. You're able to say no, you can say no to your deployments. Okay, do we have any other questions? Jojo, you have your hand up.
Something we do here in Gold Country is my DPM will let me know if I don't already know who's deployed. And I will call them periodically during their employment and how's it going? If they have a problem, I can direct them to where they need to go. And I also call their family members, if I like spouse, partner, whatever, to make sure that they're doing okay. And I think that's really important.
I agree. And Jojo, can you share with us what capacity do you function as when you call them?
I don't know. I don't think there is a function for that. I do a lot of different things. I do sheltering SV. I used to do FSI till a month ago. I mean, I've done so many different things. It's just kind of out of experiencing my husband when we don't deploy together. I've been asked to call, to see. So there's no actual title, I don't think.
So I guess the question is, when you call them, are you calling on behalf of the disaster mental health people? Are you calling on behalf of the disaster workforce engagement? Or are you calling from the mass care sheltering perspective?
I'm calling, hey, I've only called our own local ones. Hey, this is Jojo. How are you doing? And stuff like that. And the spouse is the same way. How are you doing? Anything you don't understand or whatever. So maybe stepping over the line what I should be, but yeah, I think it's very important.
Right, it is important. And help us to understand that, where do you usually get that from? Do you get it from your local territories, or do you just know people that they deployed?
Both. And like mostly people I know, only in my territory that I do that. And it's people I know. So yeah.
Got it. And what is, I mean, I know that when I'm on DRs that I don't usually pick up phones when it's calling. I mean, I pick up, but once they say, well, we're checking on to see how you're doing, when I'm busy, I say, well, I'll call you back. So what is your success rate for people actually picking up, and people actually will share their day with you and say, well, I'm doing well, how are you, etc.?
I've had really good success with it. In fact, I was nominated by one of our people up here as most compassionate. I'm like, what? I'm just doing what I should be doing, you know, because, and she told me, because you call and you check on, you want to know how I'm doing and that. So
You sure? We have a lot of comments saying that you went above and beyond. It's really compassionate, even getting a phone call, just the thought of, getting a phone call is already showing the empathy and compassion. Can you share with us a little bit of your secret of getting people actually to answer your calls and to continue the conversation with you?
well, most of the people I call, I've never called people out of our territory. So it's just, you talk and say, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? Any trouble or any questions or any problems? And they just talk to me. I don't know. There's no, special thing for it. They just talk to me.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. We have a lot of thank yous in the chat as well. Thank you so much for going above and beyond, for keeping
Well,
our workers in touch. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want thank yous. I just think it's very important to, have contact with your people. And there's some people, when they're deployed, they may not feel comfortable saying, well, I need to talk to somebody about this or that or whatever, but they know me. So yeah.
Thank you. And also division wide that, Jojo is doing for her territories and for the people that they know. I mean, she knows. But for everyone else, if you're in a leadership position, whether it's in a territory, region, division leadership position, you have the tools that you're able to find out who's deployed and who's not. You're able to go on to volunteer connection and you're able to pull a report. If you don't know how, you can work with your DWE managers to find out how, but there is a report that you can pull to see who's currently deployed. So even if those are the people that you don't know, that, not everyone's going to come up to you and say, hey, I'm deployed, if they don't even know who you are. But then by finding out who's deployed from your region or territory, you're able to initiate the first, contact with them. And sometimes text is enough, or sometimes, because people are busy, you can send a text to say, hey, this is so and so, how are you doing? Let me know if there's anything that you need. And also vice versa, that for the people that are out in the field, remember that the chain of command is not the only part that you're able to reach help from, as in, your supervisors, your chiefs, your managers, your assistant directors, but you also have your local volunteers workforce that they're able to help you as well. We have another hand raised. Jackie?
Oh, no, they know my history.
Something, I'm sorry, she wasn't answering. So something I have to say is, I would call anybody, and sometimes it's not a text, it's just a voice on the phone that says, hey, we are here and we care about you, you're deployed. Does that make sense?
Right, it does. Thank you so much. Jackie, do you want to come off mute and share your thoughts, comments?
Well, during Ian, I was down there first time in headquarters. I had trained for my position I was going to be in. And for the first week and a half, everything was great. We learned the program. We were just doing our job, transportation, logistics, everything was great. Then all of a sudden they brought in all these new people. I had 3 supervisors and 1 manager for 3 days, and everybody wanted to do something different. And I was about ready to explode and say, I can't do this. This is crazy. What do you do? Because the manager is in the same room with all of us and she can see what's going on. And I'm just ready to pull my hair out. And I hung in there. I stayed my time. But oh my God, I was like, this is just crazy. Everybody wanted to do it their way. What do you do? Who would I talk to about something like that? It was crazy.
Deb, would you like to answer that?
Well, I am no expert, and our topic here was about your own resilience, and how to take care of your own resilience and bolster it. So I wouldn't, I mean, all the things that we normally do, but things that you can address for yourself, so that you can then be better able to deal with things. Sometimes it may be moving out of the situation. Somebody I put in the chat, you can maybe ask for a different job for a while. You can ask to talk to people. There's no one answer, and every situation is different. But I guess for the purposes of this particular talk tonight, I just want to the emphasis of tonight is how we look at ourselves and what are things we can do for ourselves, that will help ourselves. So I know that dealing with other people and other situations, and that is kind of beyond the scope of this. And I would be silly and remiss to even say that I could address those things, because there's so many more pieces to it. But the things that we can address have to do with what's within our scope. What's in me and what can I address. So that was really the hope and the purpose of this evening, was what were some things that I can do for me, and that's where I can start.
Thank you so much, Deb. And we are coming on top of the hour. We're actually 1 minute over. Thank you so much all for your questions. And thank you, Linda, for staying with us. Hurricane Ian was really, really difficult. And I'm glad you stayed with us. And I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to host a session like this, so that more people can be benefited from resilience topic. Thank you so much all. Have a great evening. I will see you in actual disasters. Thank you. Good night.
7 o'clock.